Hi, welcome to Ekcel Academy. I am CS Pooja. Many of you had asked for videos regarding drafting, so here it is. In this video, I will be revising the entire drafting subject for CS Professional. So when I was preparing for my third module, I was not sure as to how well I would be able to score in the tax and open book paper. So I decided to prepare for drafting so well to help me get that aggregate. In this video, I will share with you a few things I did during my preparation which made the subject very easy to prepare and also understand and ultimately made me score well. So the tips I'm going to share with you made me get 66 in drafting, and which really helped me pass the third module because in the other two subjects I got less marks. In this video, I will be telling you three things. One is mainly the order to study the chapters in order of importance and understanding the subject well. 2 ways to prepare effectively for each chapter. 3. I have analyzed a lot of past year question papers and I will be telling you what's most important to concentrate on in each chapter and what is asked most repetitively in each chapter. So let's start the revision. Now, starting the revision with a general tip. For drafting, I made shorthand notes. Because drafting being a practical subject requires us to just understand each and every concept thoroughly. There is no need of memorization. Making my own notes helped me in this regard. I read the whole textbook once and went on jotting the important points in each paragraph. And that's it. While revising, I just read from my notes. For example, in page 2 and 3 in the textbook, I read the meaning of drafting and conveyancing and made few points, just enough to understand the concept. I even wrote down the drafts, and this helped me a lot to understand and reproduce it easily in the exam. The benefits of making shorthand notes are: 1. You leave out a lot of unimportant things and therefore can make your study very concise. 2. Easy to revise quickly, as reading the entire textbook before the exam is intimidating. 3. Helps in retaining only the important points and reproducing it in the exam. 4. Unbelievable confidence to tackle any question. But now, as there is a short time for exam and there is a lot of time to make notes for theory, I suggest please write and practice at least the drafts, and it will be a definite game changer for you. Because when you write, you retain all the minute points well. This tip was actually given to me by one of my teacher who used to make shorthand notes for all her CS papers and used to study just her notes and the scanner during revision. Now let's come to the order to study the chapters and what is important in each chapter. So there are 10 chapters in drafting. Start with chapter 1. Understanding each concept well in this chapter will make studying further the more easier. First, know the meanings and subtle differences between the terms drafting, conveyance, a document, an instrument, and lastly a deed, and the different kinds of deed like deed poll, etc. Second, the various do's and don'ts of drafting and Fowler's 5 rules of drafting. A lot of theory questions have been frequently asked from points 1 and 2. Third, the most important part in this chapter is the various components of a deed given on page 15 of the textbook, like description of the title deed, place and date, description of parties, recitals, etc. Like this, there are 17 points. So, understand each point thoroughly, because in the next and further chapters, when you come across drafts of various deeds, the first thing you need to do is locate each of the above 17 points and mark it in pencil. So basically, for every draft of a deed, you need to make sure the above 17 points, that is the components of a deed, are covered and located at the right place, and that's it. You will be able to score well in drafts. Next is chapter 2. This is a vast and important chapter from where a lot of questions have been asked. In this chapter, just like how there was basic components of deed in the previous chapter, in page 28 and 32 of the text, additional points which have to be kept in mind while drafting a contract and an agreement is given. Please make a careful note of this. Now, a general tip: before each draft, there is theory about that particular draft. So, make your own notes for that. For example, on page 38, the explanation of commercial agency contract runs to 1.5 pages. This is how I picked up the important points and made it short so that only the important points stay in mind. Alternatively, you can also highlight the important points directly in the text and read like only that during revision. Next tip is write and practice the drafts. In every draft, if you see, you can pick out around 5 important points which are the essence of the draft instead of remembering all the points. For example, the specimen of agency contract on page 40, out of 20 points over there, the following points are important and can be kept in mind. Second thing which is important in this chapter is foreign collaboration agreements. Third, the concept of arbitration is very important. Both drafting related and theory questions have been asked from here. Fourth, the difference between the various types of guarantee. Next, questions have also been asked on e-contracts. And lastly, the difference between leave and license is important in this chapter. Next is chapter 3. The important topics in this chapter are: first, the topic of power of attorney. Both theory and drafting questions have been asked. Second is wills. Almost every year there has been a question on wills. Third, in relinquishment deed, drafting of deed of dissolution of partnership is important. Lastly, knowing the concept of family settlement is important. Now, let's move on to lesson 6 to 10, from where a lot of questions are expected and also very easy compared to the first few chapters. Starting with lesson 6, the first part of the lesson deals with the types of writs. In the previous exams, differences between these writs have been asked. Next, drafting of writ petition and special leave petitions have been asked in the recent past. So, please make a note of the formats very well. Last is opinion writing, which can get you easy marks and asked many times. You can check the type of questions asked from the scanner. Lesson 6 is very easy and can also be completed quickly. Next, coming to chapter 8, Pleadings. This lesson mainly deals with the steps to file a case in court and the documents related to that. What is important and frequently asked in this chapter is: first, theory and drafting on affidavits. Second is how to draft an appeal. In my exam, there was a question on drafting an appeal to the High Court. Third, many distinguished base questions has been asked on revision, review and reference. Fourth, short note questions on the topics rejoinder, interlocutory application, complaint, FIR and bail is important. Now, moving on to chapter 9, appearances. In this chapter, trust me, if you are thorough, is a cakewalk to score. First part of this lesson deals with legal representation. That is, who can appear before authorities like SEBI, Competition Commission of India, etc. And the next is, what are the appellate authorities under various acts, example, Companies Act, etc. Which means, if you file a case, how many authorities will the case pass through till the final judgment is given. For the above, making flowcharts will make it easy for you to remember the points. Also, presenting in flowchart in exam will also be very effective. Just for you to get an idea, here is a flowchart for legal representation and appellate authorities under the Competition Act. You can similarly prepare for other acts. Secondly, what is frequently asked is short notes on the topics affidavit in evidence, rule of adverse inference, arguments on merits. Thirdly, this is the most easy to score, which is the types of etiquettes. Please be thorough with this. Next, short note on court craft is also important. And lastly, advocacy tips to CS on page 327 of the textbook is very, very important and asked umpteen number of times. Next is chapter 10, which is a short and easy chapter. This chapter too can be studied effectively by making flowcharts. This lesson deals with compounding. That is, if you are accused under an act or you complain or file a case against someone under an act, How and when can you close the case by giving or receiving compensation without dragging the case for years together in litigation? Here, the compounding of offence under FEMA and SEBI are most important. Next, the question differentiate between compounding of offence and consent order has been asked. Now, for a quick recap, you will notice that studying chapter 1, 2 and 3, you will feel more confident about drafting various deeds, contracts, etc. And chapter 6 and chapter 8 to 10 are all short and easy chapters and also can be completed quickly. Now you will be left with just 3 more chapters, that is chapter 4, 5 and 7. Out of which chapter 7, which deals with drafting under Companies Act, you would have already studied everything in module 1. Now coming to chapter 5. The first part in the chapter deals with assignment, which means when one person transfers his right to another. The important things under this are drafting of assignment of business debt, shares of a company and copyright. Theory questions on patent is important. Second is the topic partnership deeds. Frequently asked for theory under partnership deeds are retirement and expulsion of partners and dissolution of a firm. Drafting question asked under partnership are drafting of deed of dissolution of partnership and then notice to dissolve partnership, and next is notice to determine partnership at will. Next important in this chapter is the concept of trust. Under this, what is important is differentiate between public and private trust. Second, trust of immovable property, that is creation of a trust and its contents on page 202. Third, the difference between revocation and extinction of trust. Next is debenture trust deed. Both theory as well as drafting is important here. Coming next to chapter 7, that is drafting of agreements under Companies Act. You would have studied almost everything covered here in module 1 under company law and CRI paper. So it's a repetition and so therefore study this chapter towards the end. Frequently asked topics here are 1. Promoters contracts. Both theory and drafting here is important. Second, drafting of underwriting contracts. Third and very important is how to draft contract of appointment of managing director and company secretary. Next, drafting of amalgamation deed. And finally, short notes on slum sale and shareholders agreement is important. I kept chapter 4 last because the topics covered here are those which you would have studied in executive. Important and frequently asked from here are 1. Drafting of deed of sale of a house. 2. Drafting of agreement of sale of immovable property. 3. Drafting of deed of sale by liquidator of a company in voluntary liquidation. 4. Theory questions on mortgage, lease and license. Also, drafting of any one type of mortgage has been previously asked. Just to be safe and because I have seen questions asked from the drafts given in the end of the textbook, the important drafts to be studied are notice under section 80 of CPC against a public officer of a state or central government given on page 338. Second, application to sue as an indigent person given on page 349. I hope you liked the video. With this, we come to the end of the revision. I hope this revision was helpful for you. If you need any more clarification or more information on the subject, please leave us a comment. I wish you all the very best for the exam and please do subscribe to Ekcel Academy for more information on CS. Thank you.